versus Fusco, O'Hara. Step to the podium.
Nathaniel Allenby and fiancée Alexandra Lothian are suing their former landlords, Antoinette Fusco and her husband, Stephen Pat O'Hara, for the return of rent and their security deposit, as well as damages due to harassment.
Mr. Allenby, since you were the one who filed this complaint on behalf of yourself and your co-plaintiff, who was your girlfriend, is that correct?
She's my fiancée.
I'm going to address myself to you. You rented a place to live from the defendants.
Correct.
And your claim seeks your security deposit back, damages to property, which is, I assume, a vandalized car, which you can't prove.
Correct.
Because you have no proof of who vandalized the property, according to your own complaint.
Mm-hmm.
And damages for harassment and also some rent back because you were unhappy.
Beyond unhappy.
Unhappy, but lived there.
We lived there under the worst living conditions I have ever experienced.
Unhappy, but lived there. So let's talk about primarily your security deposit in this lawsuit, because that's primarily what I'm interested in. The other stuff is too touchy-feely for courts. Once you eat the steak, you vote for the steak. If you don't like where you're living, you move. Did you rent their entire house or a room in their house?
Our lease agreement, as written, was for the house, yet we had agreed to...
Just a second. I'd like to see it. Thank you. What was the month that was originally in there? Because that October date was not initialed by anyone.
I also have
what was the date?
The old lease before modifications were made.
Answer my question.
It's
what
for
month
June
was there because of
10th.
June 10th. Okay. Yeah, that was not initialed either, and $20 late. They have their additional rent.
I don't know if it is visible, but the initials are at the bottom of the page.
No, it has to be initialed right near any modification. That's the lease. So, Miss Fusco.
Yes.
This lease is for a house.
No.
Yes. This lease, what I'm telling you is, unless you have another document for me to look at, this lease is for a house. The premises leased is a house with 3 bedrooms, 3 baths, and 2 parking spaces. And its location. The premises includes the following: storage garage spaces, garage. Premises includes the following furniture. There's nothing in that lease, unless you have another one, that says that what they're really renting is a bedroom in a house. There's nothing in there that says that, Ms. Fusco.
Well,
and you cannot modify. Aye.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If you took off the internet a lease agreement and didn't read it carefully, that's on you.
Nathaniel Allenby and fiancée Alexandra Lothian claim their former landlords, Antoinette Fusco and husband Stephen Pat O'Hara, misrepresented their rental agreement.
Okay, unless you have another lease, what you leased to them is a whole house.
That was never our agreement. There was another roommate that lived in the other room.
Just a second.
You
have to
I understand.
Miss Fusco, if you're going to be a landlord and prepare an agreement, I assume that you prepared this agreement.
I did not.
assume that you prepared this. Who's Patrick?
I'm Patrick. And actually, I had
your husband. Your husband. I don't care. As long as it was prepared by the defendants, there were 2 rules. First of all, a lease is viewed most stringently against the person, or any contract, against the person who drafted it. That would be the defendants. This lease is a written lease, signed. Do you have the signature page to the lease?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. And it's signed by both of you. Fine. Okay. And this says, just so that you know, Miss Fusco,
I understand.
You leased these 2 people a 3-bedroom house for $1,300 a month. And if you had other tenants in there, that was your problem. That was your problem, not theirs.
Judge, may I say something?
You can say whatever you like. I'm telling you what the law is.
Okay, as far
I'm
as
telling you what the law is. If you took a shortcut and took off the internet a lease agreement and didn't read it carefully, that's on you. That's on your wife. That's not on them. And what you told them orally about other tenants is meaningless to the law. Absolutely meaningless to the law. You cannot modify a written contract by an oral one. So bottom line is, you could have left the first month and owed them nothing. You understand that now. You could have.
We did not
You
have
chose
another
not to.
facility at that moment.
Whatever. You chose not to. And how many other tenants did they have living there?
At different times, 2 different people inside the same house where we lived, and a totally separate tenant living behind a garage space that was there the entire time we were there.
Can I see the lease again? Does it talk about the garage?
Certainly does.
Storage spaces, garage. Did you have use of the garage?
We did not have access to the garage. The garage was locked to us. We were locked out of the garage the entire time.
Who was using the garage, Miss Fusco?
I don't know which garage they're talking about. The garage that was attached to the house was common area that everyone was using.
Okay, you have to give them all their rent
another
back.
separate
You have to give
garage.
them, you have to give them all their rent back. All. And this is a first for me. You can't do that.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Did you?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy, Nathaniel Allenby, and fiancée Alexandra Lothian claim their former landlords, Antoinette Fusco and husband Stephen Pat O'Hara, misrepresented their rental agreement.
Okay, if this is a house that you rent out with a lot of people, then you prepare a lease that's appropriate. So you have $1,300 for your security deposit, and you were there January, February, March, and April. Did you pay May's rent?
We did not pay May's rent, Your Honor.
Did you pay April's rent?
We paid every rent except for May.
Okay, so you paid January,
Correct.
February,
Correct.
March, and April.
Correct.
Well, you're suing them for $5,000.
Yes, I
You
am.
absolutely deserve every penny of the $5,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Outrageous. Outrageous. Next time, get a professional to draw up a lease for a house. If you want to be a landlord and move sketchy people in, don't rent to people under an agreement that says you're renting a whole house, including a garage. Goodbye.
Case is concluded. Parties are excused.
Well, we thought we were tricked.
We weren't given any sort of rights.
Well, they knew what they were doing.
They trampled all over civil law.
Well, no one was happy.
There were multiple cases in which they were in breach.
We're gonna talk to a lawyer.
I'm really appreciative of Judge Judy today.
And now,